A plataforma foi especialmente popular no Brasil e na Índia. E há 10 anos ele se dedica a projetos que fortalecem conexões humanas por meio da tecnologia. Mas, vocês viram que eu falei, o nome dele é Orkut. Orkut, desse jeito, né? Turco. Mas aqui no Brasil ninguém fala Orkut. Aqui no Brasil a gente fala Orkut. Como a gente fala? Orkut. E como aqui estamos num evento criativo, tivemos uma ideia criativa para ele vir para este palco. Então, comigo, me ajudem para valer meu cachê, por favor. Vamos chamá-lo, todo mundo junto. E ele adora esse jeito brasileiro. Então, por favor, Orkut, Orkut, me ajudem. Orkut, 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 Orkut. Cadê? Orkut aqui.
Oi, pessoal. Boa noite, Brasília. It is so good to be back in Brazil. And today is extra special because it's my first time in Brasília. And I'm going to talk about something that moves me very deeply. The power of connection. Speaking of power, there are two forces that had a tremendous influence in my life. And these are also the two forces that brought me here today. So the first one is the rich tapestry of connections I made growing up. I love Brazil, I love Brazilians, but I actually was born in Turkey, believe it or not. I was born in Turkey, I spent my childhood in Germany. Then I came to America to study computer science. My whole life I had to navigate different roads and make new friends and connections from scratch. Having experienced different cultures made me a different person. Back then, every time I moved to a different country, I was once again an outsider. But the good thing about it is that it gave me perspective on community, identity, and belonging. From a young age, I experienced different cultures, and it showed me how unique, singular, and different we can be. My exposure to different cultures made me insanely passionate about not just people, but also the meaningful connections that we create. So the second force that had a tremendous influence in my life was Star Wars. Who here loves Star Wars? So I watched the epic saga as a kid. The movies started my lifelong fascination with technology. It made me dream of how technology can change our lives in the future. And Star Wars also inspired me to learn programming when I was a kid. I think I was like 8 years old. And later on in life, my academic journey led me from computer science to data science and then to social science. Since then, my biggest passion in life is connecting people through technology. It's the intersection of connection and technology that makes me who I am, that makes my heart sing. Today I'm going to take on a wonderful journey through time. From the days of our face-to-face communication, to telephones, to internet and smartphones. I'm going to share how technology, particularly social media, has reshaped the very essence of how we connect with one another. We all need to connect. Connection is wired in our DNA. It's a fundamental aspect of our existence. Our need and ability to connect transcends time and cultures. Connection is what binds us together as a society and creates the basis of our friendships, relationships, communities, and even personal identities. Connection also impacts social capital. Social capital is different than physical capital, which refers to physical objects, and human capital, which refers to properties that we own. Social capital refers to the connection among individuals, the social networks, and the forms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that arise from it. Social capital relies on position, reputation, friendship, and community. Now let's explore how connection changed throughout human history. The era you were born has a tremendous impact on your behavior, attitudes, values, and personality traits. In fact, when you are born, has a higher effect on your personality and values compared to the parents that raised you. The era you are born into particularly matters because of the technology you are born into. Technology isn't just about stuff, it's about how we live, which influences how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. And connection has undergone through a tremendous transformation over generations because of technology. Technology is always going in the same direction, making this faster, easier, more convenient, and more entertaining for us. Technology and its after effects on attitudes, behaviors, culture have broken the old cycles of generation into a newer model for a modern world. So when we talk about generations, we think about when we were born, right? So we have the greatest generation, which we call the science generation. We have the baby boomers. People had a lot of babies during the baby boomers generation. And then we have Generation X, Generation Y, which we call millennials, and Generation Z, which is Gen Z. When I think of my generation, I don't think about the year I was born. I call upon the machines that transform my consciousness. I remember the crackle of our first radio. I remember the wonder when the black and white television transformed and flickered into vibrant colors. I remember my first computer, a Sinclair Spectrum with 48 kilobytes of memory and a cassette tape. My second computer, a personal computer, had a 5-quarter floppy drive. Each machine is a step to the world. And then came my Nokia cell phone, and the Bomb Pilot, and the flip phone, and the iPod, and the iPhone. And gadgets, they didn't just evolve, they completely transformed the way I live. So today when I talk about generations, I'm going to use a different kind of categorization. It's not based on birth year, but that's based on the technologies you are born into. So we have the radio generation, the telephone and television, the internet, and the smartphone and social media. And who knows what comes next? Maybe it's going to be the AI generation. Only time will tell. So who here listens to radio? But I'm not talking about just podcasts, actual radio. Raise your hands. I love the radio. I listen to it all the time when I'm driving. So 1930s are the golden age of radio. And the greatest generation was the first generation growing up listening to radio. They were 2 to 15 years old. The radio allowed mass communication over long distances, enabling us to stay connected over events and stories and entertainment. The radio introduced diverse cultures to each other through music and stories, creating a global sense of understanding and connection. The radio also allowed us to have more topics to discuss and share. Local radio stations played a vital role in building and strengthening local communities by providing a platform to share news and stories and events. In countries like Brazil, we hear stories of friends and family gathering together to listen to the latest soap opera on the radio or the soccer game. Not everyone had a radio at the time, so he would invite their friends and neighbors over to share the entertainment. But we also see the first negative effects of technology on socializing materialism. In countries like America, the availability of radio as a form of entertainment reduced people's motivation to go out and socialize. So instead of going out and meeting people, people could just stay home and listen to the radio. Advertisement on radio promoted materialism and consumer products, fostering a culture that prioritizes the acquisition of goods instead of interpersonal relationships, affecting the quality of our interactions. The telephone that was invented in the late 19th century is very different than the ones in our pockets today. Because the telephone back then only had one purpose: to make voice calls. Did you know that Brazil is one of the first countries in the world to have the telephone? In 1876, Pedro II tested Abraham Bell's invention in America. And he had a funny reaction when he put the receiver on his phone and heard voice coming through it. In awe, he exclaimed, "It speaks." He was so impressed and mesmerized by his experience that he was one of the first people in the world to install a telephone in his homeland metropolis. The telephone might have been a novelty back then, but a century later, Generation X was born and grew up in a culture where telephone and television became the norm. Even though the telephone vastly expanded our possibilities for human connection and communication, it didn't radically alter people's lives. Instead, everyone used the telephone vigorously to pursue their characteristic way of life. The television, on the other hand, changed our lives drastically. As the song goes, video killed the radio star, pictures came and broke your heart. So the television came and became the prominent broadcast platform, replacing radio in the 1950s, and became the norm in 1960s and 1970s. So the greatest generation was the first generation growing up listening to radio, and the boomers were the first generation growing up watching television. From a young age, they saw a wider world, but also a world with all the things they were told they should buy. The television showed boomers and Generation X all the things they should buy, and individualism made them want those things for themselves. So materialism and television go hand in hand. Among college freshmen, for instance, materialism increased during the highest exposure of television. According to studies, students who watch television in college became way more materialistic in life compared to their peers who watch no television at all. To this day, reality shows on TV raise our expectations for what it means to have a good life. We blindly have soaring expectations as if some idiot raised the ante for what it means to be a human being. So as a result, there's more emphasis on improving ourselves instead of improving society. Did you ever think that the amount of free time we have has nothing to do with how active we are in our communities? The television is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It absorbs all our free time and impairs communities. Needless to say, the internet came in the late 1990s and changed our lives forever. The internet is not about information like the radio or the television. It's about communication. But it's also very different than the telephone. The internet includes human social interaction through many means. Email, forums, bulletin boards, instant messaging apps, ICQ, IIM, AOL, MSN, online video games. Most millennials and all of Gen Z grew up with the internet. Millennials were 62 years old and Gen Z was 25 years old when the internet became a norm. The internet is amazing because it facilitates global communication, allowing people to connect from different parts of the world. It took down geographical barriers and made it possible to interact with individuals from different cultures. The internet also provided an online space for mass participation in a fully bidirectional, uncensored communication. Communication is the basis, the foundation, the holy ground upon which it stands, grows, and thrives. The internet is a community of chronic communicators. So the earlier internet technologies showed us the way for how to communicate and connect online. They demonstrated the internet's potential to bridge geographical gaps, create online virtual communities, and find new ways to communicate and interact. But with it, it carried some troubles. At the time where television channels started competing for ratings, the internet news started tilting towards what gets the most views. So news started tilting towards what gets the most eyeballs, not what inspires the most trust. And by year 2000, the smartphone became a norm. Who uses telephones anymore? Raise your hands. The smartphone is amazing, and if you think about when the smartphone came out, the boomers were 41 to 59 years old. Generation X was 26 to 40 years old. Millennials were 11 to 25 years old. And Gen Z was 1 to 10 years old. And in 2001, the smartphone was able to connect wirelessly through a 3G network, which became available pretty short after in Brazil. And as like coverage increased and data plans became more widely available, the smartphone became more popular. When everyone uses the technology, it impacts everybody. It doesn't matter if you use the technology or not. It's hard to strike a conversation when everyone is looking down at their phone. It's hard to meet face to face if communicating online has become the norm. So social media became popular around the same time as smartphones. In 2001, Club X was launched at Stanford. In 2002, Friendster launched. In 2003, MySpace launched. In 2004, Orkut.com launched. And then Facebook launched. And by 2006, social networks became a norm. Social networks and social media impacted our lives in many ways. Oftentimes to get a new job. More often, to find a helping hand, companionship, or a shoulder to cry on. Social media usage for young people became from being optional to almost mandatory. In 2009, only 1 out of 2 teenagers use social media every day. In 2012, just in 3 years, it was 3 out of 4 teenagers. And the social media era fundamentally changed the way we live. For boomers and Gen X, meeting face to face and talking on a telephone were the only communication options when they were young. Online communication became the norm for Gen Z. The sudden and rapid large changes between the behavior of millennials and Gen Z is not a coincidence. It emerged from the fastest adoption of any technology ever invented. Optimism plummeted and depression rose during the smartphone and social media era. Now is a good time to talk about how recent technologies have been affecting our mental health. For the most part, millennials' health was more positive than Gen X. Gen X, from the minute they were born, they were flooded with advertisements. So they have a hard time trusting anyone or anything. They can be cynical, alienated, and pessimistic. However, millennials' mental health suffered in adulthood and sometimes with extreme consequences like suicide. Can you guess why? When millennials grew up and became adults, they were exposed to social media. If you look at Gen Z, things look a lot worse. Gen Z feels nervous, hopeless, anxious, depressed. They tend to think that everything is a big effort, which is a standard symptom for mental distress. How can they not be depressed in an environment where social media and smartphones creates an atmosphere of constant competition and severs them as human social interaction? Think about it. One of the precursors for the decline in mental health is loneliness. It is so vital to have strong social connections to be mentally healthy, especially for the young ones. And loneliness became an epidemic with the smartphone and social media. Loneliness sets in when we feel disconnected with other people. When we feel that we lack the intimate bonds, the kind of connections we build and develop slowly over time, face to face. We place such a stigma on loneliness for a feeling that characterizes something so fundamental in our age. For a feeling that so many of us experience. We don't like to talk about it. We don't name it. We pretend that it doesn't exist. Why? You might start by recognizing that the word has quite a terror to it. We don't like the word. The thought of saying, I am lonely to someone else feels like a personal and moral failure. And since we cannot say it should not be said, the thing that we all feel feels more personal, acute, and unresolvable. We are all alone in our loneliness, and thus we are more alone. We have to come back from the void. We have to reclaim the world. We have the power to change ourselves. We can make new friends, we can find love, and we can begin to trust each other again. We can share who we truly are without fear of judgment or reprisal. We can feel heard, we can feel fulfilled. Your phone cannot frown when you're feeling down. Your phone cannot touch you the way you were touched when you were in love. Your phone is not a shoulder you can cry on. Your phone doesn't need you, and it's never going to love you back. But all of us here can and are and do and will. One of the most amazing things about humans is our ability to relate to other people. We can reconnect and feel less lonely. We just have to try. And we cannot blame our loneliness on technology alone. To do so, we should project the hope that technology can save us. It cannot. Technology is mundane, it's not sacred. Technology is utility, not an object of worship. The now famous American writer David Foster Wallace, in his commencement speech at Penny College, said, "If you worship money and things, you will never have enough. Worship your own body and beauty, you will always feel ugly. Worship power, and you will feel weak and afraid." To that we might add, if you worship technology, if you put all your hopes and powers and belief in that which cannot hope for you and believe in you, if you spend every single moment behind a screen that can hold you, cannot warn you, that cannot celebrate with you the miracle of life. If you love that which can never love you back, you will always, incontrovertibly, feel alone. And when you finally blink, it will be just you looking at the crystal display. Historians hardly talk about how technology impacts our happiness and well-being. Earlier I mentioned social capital is the connections among individuals. Social capital is the thing that makes us happy and healthy. Social capital makes us smarter and healthier and safer and able to govern just societies. And social capital has gone a heavy decline in the past generations. Let's think about entertainment, for instance. It hasn't moved outside our homes. It seems to be disappearing completely. We spend less time having conversations over meals. We exchange visits less often. We engage less in leisure activities that spark casual interactions. We spend more time watching, less time doing. We know our neighbors less well. We see our old friends less often. The things that make us the happiest, like volunteering, club going, entertaining, happens with me once a month and never. Many of us have forgotten the joy of having friends around at our dinner table. The rise of selfishness and the breakdown of society is a very serious problem in our current age. And one of the main culprits for the decline of social capital is social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. They often put profit over safety. And they profit from negativity and anger. Because negative emotions keep users on the side longer, which means they can show more ads and make profit from it, and they can also gather more data and profit from it. This anger and negativity is one of the main contributors for many of the ills and troubles of our world. Depression, cancel culture, misinformation, political polarization. So young people on social media compare themselves to their friends and feel depressed. Doom scrolling, never-ending bad news puts people down. Calls to cancel almost always starts online on social media. Misinformation spreads. Angry and hostile posts spread the fastest, contributing to political polarization and sometimes building up and causing violence in the real world. But this is not the end of the story. There is a challenge for all of us, for all generations, for decades to come, to find a way to use technology to bring us together instead of driving us apart. At this point, many of us know how recent technologies are impacting our mental health and the quality of our interactions. But in moments like this in history, moments of suffering can lead and inspire us for positive change. Going forward, technology will continue to advance and reshape our networks. And we will change too. The humans have been rewired many, many times throughout history. With letter writing, the printing press, the telegram, the train, overseas travel, the radio, telephone, television, internet, social media, smartphones. I believe that together we can use social media to connect to each other. The world is much more prosperous than ever before, and the technological changes has left us a huge bonding to be shared. Technological changes haven't only decreased the barrier to entry, they increase the speed of update and delivery. Think about it. Today, you can form and maintain relationships with people online that live in other continents. I believe that connection is about empathy and understanding, especially when we are different. It's about our shared experiences. Whether we communicate face-to-face or through a screen, our ability to create authentic connections will always be a part of our human existence. Our real connections don't come from the number of likes or comments we receive online. They don't come from our friends or followers. Our best connections are our communities. And they come from the conversations we have, the experiences we share with one another. Opening doors is what builds communities. I want us to wake up every morning with the hope that if we can be a little bit friendlier, we can create a better online world. I want to build a social network that just feels like my neighborhood from my childhood home. The neighborhood where we support each other no matter what life brings our way. The neighborhood where we feel comfortable sharing life joys and wishes. The neighborhood where we make new friends and find new passions together. The neighborhood where we don't draw our blinds down and lock our doors. But in order for that to happen, we have to quit toxic social media. We have to stop using software that is not value-driven. We have to quit using apps that are run by profiteers. We can create this beautiful neighborhood together. I know we can because we don't have a political agenda. I know because we don't play dirty games. I know because the tears that come from our eyes come from our heart. I know because the power of the people is stronger than the people who are in power. Obrigado. Social media is not an online space for self-promotion and bragging. Social media is about connection, understanding, and empathy. Sharing is not just sharing our successes, it's sharing our fears and hangovers and mistakes. When we truly show ourselves on social media, and if we see that in others too, we feel less lonely. We feel happier and more connected, connecting to real people who are living and sharing their real lives. When we truly see each other, we are motivated to help each other. Together we can rebuild social media that reflects the best of humanity. One where authenticity prevents pretense, and where our shared experiences are a testament to the beauty of our journey. I believe in the intricate tapestry of connections we view all day, day by day. I believe that social media, unlike any technology ever invented, has the power to connect us, make us happier, and give us a sense of belonging. Social media has the power not to only change ourselves, but the world for the better. We can change negative trajectory of social media to a positive one together. Just like the Star Wars saga that inspires me so much, there's a redemption arc to this story. And it boils down to how much we can accomplish together being in the community. I hope all of us can find the courage to be our authentic selves, inside and outside, online and offline. After all, it's the true colors of our fibers that bind us together in this amazing tapestry of connections. Thank you so much for having me today. I love you. Obrigado.
Thank you very much. O Orkut vai dar uma paradinha, 5 minutinhos, e aí vai ali na área do Meet, se não me engano. You're gonna have a meet and greet in 5-10 minutes, that's okay? Yes? Thank you very much.